Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the U.S. Humanitarian Assistance to the DRC conference call. At this time, all participants are on a listen-only mode. If you should require offline assistance, you may press star then 0. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded. Your hosting speaker, Tiffany Jackson Zunker. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to everyone from the U.S. Department of State's Africa Regional Media Hub. I would like to welcome our participants dialing in from across the continent and thank all of you for joining this discussion. Today, we are very pleased to be joined by Mr. Matt Nims, the U.S. Agency for International Development's Acting Director of Food for Peace, Mr. Christopher Upchurch, Acting Director for Africa Assistance from the State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, and Ms. Elizabeth Jaffe, Senior Desk Officer covering the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The speakers will discuss U.S. humanitarian assistance and policy for the people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo following the Humanitarian Pledging Conference in Geneva that took place on April 13th. Our speakers are joining us from Washington, D.C. We will begin today's call with opening remarks from Mr. Nims and Mr. Upchurch, and then we will turn to your questions. We will try to get to as many of them as we can during the time that we have, which is approximately 40 minutes. At any time during the call, if you would like to ask a question, you must press star 1 on your phone to join the question and answer queue. If you would like to join the conversation on Twitter, please use the hashtag AFHubPress and follow us on @AfricaMediaHub, @USAIDFFP, and @StatePRM. As a reminder, today's call is on the record. And with that, I will turn it over to Matt Nims, USAID's Acting Director of Food for Peace.
Thank you, Tiffany. On Friday, the United States announced nearly $67 million in additional humanitarian assistance for the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. This assistance is providing emergency food, shelter, healthcare, and other urgent aid for vulnerable people in the country and to Congolese refugees in surrounding countries. Intensifying conflicts in the DRC have left more than 13 million people in need of urgent humanitarian aid and nearly 8 million facing food insecurity. As we address these urgent and critical humanitarian needs, we cannot lose sight of the fundamental need for stability and security to address the underlying causes of conflict that has led to this humanitarian crisis. The United States is the single largest donor supporting this humanitarian response. Since the beginning of fiscal year 2017 to date, we have provided nearly $277 million to address the humanitarian needs of vulnerable people in the DRC, as well as Congolese refugees in surrounding countries. This funding is in addition to the $533 in humanitarian assistance announced last month for the people of Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, and Nigeria, as well as countries in the Lake Chad region, where millions are facing life-threatening food insecurity and malnutrition as a result of ongoing conflict or prolonged drought. With that, I would like to pass to Mr. Chris Upchurch from the State Department's Population, Refugee, Migration.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to add that the combined international humanitarian appeals for the DRC situation are now nearly $2.2 billion for this year. This funding is needed to help provide critical assistance to communities in need inside the DRC, as well as a projected 800,000 Congolese refugees in neighboring countries by the end of the year. We welcome the many pledges from other donors at the conference in Geneva this past Friday, which totaled approximately $500 million. And we continue to urge others to provide additional resources as soon as possible to help those suffering in the midst of these conflicts in the DRC. I'm joined today as well by my colleague from the Bureau of African Affairs, Elizabeth Jaffe, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nims and Mr. Upchurch. We will now begin the question and answer portion of today's call. For those of you asking questions, please state your name and affiliation and limit yourself to one question related to the topic of today's briefing, U.S. humanitarian assistance and policy for the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. For those of you listening to the call in English, please press star 1 on your phone to join the question queue. If you are using a speakerphone, you may need to pick up the handset before entering star 1. For those of you listening to the call in French and Portuguese, we have received some of your questions submitted in advance by email, and you may continue to submit your questions in English via email to afmediahub@state.gov. Our first question will go to Michael Tanto, the Senior Content Editor for All Africa in Cape Town, South Africa. Operator, can you open the line, please?
Good day, good afternoon to the whole panel. This is Michael Tanto from All Africa Global Media. I will want to ask, given the fact that the government and the UN are at loggerheads at what actually the conflict, the actual humanitarian situation in DR Congo, I was wondering, for those organizations that are working inside DR Congo, wouldn't it be a problem, with the government in using such funding inside the country? I do understand those working with refugees outside the country, it might not be a problem, but the question arises, those who are working in the DRC itself with internal displaced people, would the government be really happy to actually allow such funds to be used inside the country? How does the UN and the panel, how will they be able to deal with a situation like that?
Thank you for that question. As of now, operations have been ongoing since, over the past year in this heightened state. There have been no reports of any issues of operations continuing. This additional attention on the crisis, I think, serves to allow the NGOs additional flexibility and resources to be able to respond to the crisis. So at this time, there has been no issues that we have heard from our operating partners, both from the UN or from the international NGOs.
Okay.
And I'd also like to add, hi, this is Chris Upchurch, that part of the way that we provide our assistance, the U.S. government provides assistance, is to work internationally, both with the government in the midst of the situation, as well as the other governments and multilateral agencies, to ensure that humanitarian assistance can reach everyone in need appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Christophe Hitayezu, the editor at nonaha.com in Rwanda, Kigali. Operator, can you open the line, please?
Thank you very much. I'm Christophe Hitayezu in Rwanda. What USAID is doing is a direct support to victims of political instability in DRC. I would like to know if you have any intervention in resolving in sustainable manner problems, particularly political problems in Congo, to make the end on those people, those victims of political instability. But I am saying this because exactly you are helping, you are supporting people, and if there is a continuous, if the problem continue to be very, if victims continue to undergo so many problems of political instability, if there is no political resolution that can sustainably resolve those problems, it means you will always need it for support.
Yes,
So
excuse me.
My question is,
there we go. Thank you.
my question is what are you doing on the political side if you have intervention in the political side to resolve problems in Congo? Thank you.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Jaffe from the State Department. The DRC is at, obviously, a critical juncture. Our top priority for the United States government is to support the DRC's stability by ensuring adherence to the electoral calendar and seeing the DRC reach credible elections in December resulting in a peaceful democratic transfer of power. Obviously, elections are not going to solve all of the DRC's challenges, but we do think that they are essential to support the stability, both political as well as other challenges in addressing the long-term needs of the population. So that on a policy side is very much where our focus and our efforts are at the moment. Thank you.
And this is Chris Upchurch. I'd like to also add that for those who are fleeing political reasons, fleeing to neighboring countries such as Rwanda, the United States is supportive and continues to support international aid organizations that are assisting them in the countries of asylum. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question was submitted via email from Fiston Mahaba, Reuters correspondent in Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo. He asks, the DRC government said on Monday that it will create a humanitarian fund management agency in the DRC. What do you think about the fact that it is the government that manages all the humanitarian funds intended for the country? Will this decision have an impact on U.S. policy?
This is Matthew Nims. This is a relatively recent development that we're just learning about now. Our teams on the field are alerting us to this fact. We welcome the idea of government involvement in any international aid that we do in conjunction with our operating partners, both the UN and international NGOs. And as this develops, we look forward to developing the relationship to ensure that those in most need, the most vulnerable, are receiving the assistance that they deserve. Thank you.
Our next question will go to Nick Terse, a reporter from Vice News in Washington, D.C. Operator, can you open the line, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'd appreciate if Mr. Nims, Mr. Upchurch, and Ms. Jaffe could possibly weigh in on this. Broadly, I hope that they could outline the ways that U.S. policy and humanitarian assistance towards Congo, vis-a-vis President Trump's America First policy. That is, how does U.S. aid to Congo put America first, and what are the benefits to the United States and its citizens?
This is Matthew Nims. When we do humanitarian assistance, this does reflect, I think, the best face of the United States government, always to help those people in need around the world. Also, this humanitarian assistance does provide, in a sense, elements of stability, and stability in all parts of the world help the United States as it goes forward, developing crucial relations with all of the partners in all countries in the world. So in a sense, the stability that this can bring in these situations is beneficial to the United States in that way. As we've seen, where there are, areas of conflict or where there are areas of strife, being able to provide some level of stability has been proven to really help on all levels in international relations. I'm going to pass that now off to my colleagues as well.
No, thank you. Just to echo in terms of the importance of stability and the DRC's place in Africa, just given its size and location with 9 international borders, that really is a key factor and is one of the many reasons that DRC really is a priority country for us and is part of what I'd say is a very broad approach in terms of supporting stability, security, both in the DRC but also the broader sub-region in Africa.
And this is Chris Upchurch. I'd like to also note that the United States remains a leader in humanitarian assistance worldwide, but this is a international effort and a multilateral effort. I'd like to take a moment to commend the countries in the region that are hosting so many Congolese refugees and really are the first responders in any humanitarian crisis in this part of the world. And so our assistance is part of an effort to share that burden with them in partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our last live question in the question queue. So if any of our listeners have any other questions to ask, please press *1 to join the question queue. Alternatively, you can send questions via email to afmediahub@state.gov or post them to Twitter @AfricaMediaHub. We will now go forward with a submitted question. USAID Administrator Mark Green has said humanitarian assistance must be temporary. Under what circumstances or timeline is that possible in the DRC?
Administrator Green has often said that, the job of humanitarian and development assistance is to work ourselves out of a job, and this remains clear. There's no set timelines necessarily on what that is. Conditions on the ground and in the area will dictate how that goes, but the overall goal of assisting in these situations to ensure that in the future that this is no longer needed is the goal that Administrator Green has put to all of us as we go forward.
Thank you. I'll return to Nick Turse of Vice News. He's still in the question queue. Operator, can you open the line, please?
This question, I think, maybe is best for Ms. Jaffe, but I'd appreciate any response. I'm wondering if you believe that the 2017 budget and troop level cuts to MONUSCO hampered efforts to respond to crises in Congo, most especially in North Kivu and in Ituri late last year, early this year.
Hi. We obviously feel MONUSCO plays a critical role in the DRC in terms of both its mandate for civilian protection as well as support for the electoral process. We have focused on ensuring that MONUSCO is as efficient and effective as possible, and that remains our focus in working with them as a partner and ensuring that they continue to be able to most effectively meet the needs of the population and also achieve their mandate.
Yeah, I'm just asking specifically about the cuts that came down last year, in regard to meeting that mandate.
As I say, I don't feel like I'm in a position. It would be more probably appropriate for our international organizations bureau to answer that more specific question. I think generally, as I say, we do feel that MONUSCO plays a critical role in civilian protection. Obviously, that includes primarily in the East, where they have been very active, and we work with them to ensure that they are able to be as effective as possible within that mandate. But I'm happy to take note of your question for other colleagues here to answer the specifics.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Christophe Hitayezu from Rwanda. Operator, open the line, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Christopher again in Kigali. The ELRC was not presented in the conference held in Geneva on Friday. I would like to know what strategy we use to ensure that all support has reached to beneficiaries in DRC. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. Just if the question was to ensure that the recently pledged funds reach those in need, that is, we are as well concerned about that and have our partners on the ground as well as our own teams there to ensure that does occur. We have a long history in DRC working to ensure that does occur. We had wished, we were disappointed that the DRC did not participate in the conference, and we continue to urge the DRC to help ensure that those funds and that aid does reach the intended beneficiaries. Thank you.
The next question came in. The U.S.